I wanted to ask you guys this question because obviously Deandre Ayton has been really phenomenal in these playoffs. Do you think that he has now become a top 5 center in the NBA? And I'll just list out some names. You have Nikola Jokic, Joel Embiid, Bam, Cat, Gobert, Vucevic, Jonas Valanciunas, Clint Capella. Those are just some of the top centers in the NBA.
He's not a center.
Anthony Davis is not a center.
Really?
I don't think he's a center. I think he's a 4.
Okay.
He's definitely in the Giannis class. 4.
So DeAndre Ayton, do you think he has put himself in that top 5 conversation amongst top centers?
I think he's definitely put himself in the conversation. I think in this playoff run, first round he plays AD. Granted, not for too many games, but he plays AD, holds his own. Second round, plays the Joker, holds his own. Granted, Joker was having a great game after great game, but Ayton was doing everything he could. He was trying to capitalize, and he was on offense. He was doing his thing too. So I think going up against, in a lot of people's minds, either the number 1 or the number 2 power forward in the NBA, then going up against, in a lot of people's mind, the best center in the NBA, the MVP, and holding your own at, if I'm not mistaken, 22 years old, I think that definitely puts you in the conversation. Something we've never seen Cat done. We haven't seen Embiid done. We haven't seen Bam done. This is something DeAndre Ayton has done in his first playoff run. So I think we have to start considering as a top 5 big, because when you look at it too, he almost can do anything on the court. He's a great defender. He can hit that mid-range jump shot. He has a great post game. He's a great pick and roller. He's a great screener. He does everything that a big man. You can't. It's not even like a Rudy Gobert where you can take him off the court. You can't, because Ayton is so dominant on the glass and so dominant all offense on the other end in the post. I mean, you see what he's doing to the Clippers right now. That small ball lineup isn't working because he's so effective in the mid-range game. He's been effective on the glass. So I think looking at it, you have to put him in that top 5 conversation just because of the run he's had.
So I have him just outside the top 5, actually. I have Embiid over him. I got Jokic over him. I got Karl-Anthony Towns over him. I got Gobert over him. That was the closest one in my opinion. And I have Valanciunas over him too. He's just on the outside looking in. I feel like if I'm going to compare Gobert and Ayton, I like Ayton's offensive game more than I like Gobert's. It's just that Gobert is just such a force on the inside defensively. It's like Ayton averages 0.5 blocks a game, where Gobert averages 2. So and Gobert averages 2 less points than Ayton and averages two more rebounds than Ayton. So it's really close between them. Right now, obviously, Ayton's in the Western Conference Finals. Gobert's team just got kicked out. I don't want to say in spite of Gobert, but Gobert had a part in that Utah series going the way that it did. So right now I'm going to say not yet. Definitely has the potential to. Dude is really efficient scoring the basketball. Like Riv mentioned, his mid-range game is what makes him so efficient. He shoots the free throw relatively well. His inside game solid. His post game solid. He's really breaking out this postseason. So I'm going to say not yet, but definitely the potential to.
I think he's put himself there. I mean, the only 4 centers that I could see over him that are over him right now at this point, Nikola Jokic, Embiid, Bam, and Cat. Everybody else is debatable. Gobert, because he lacks that offensive game, I can't put him over Ayton because I think Ayton has showed he can be a great defender, but he can be good on offense as well. He's not a liability where Gobert is. And even then, I think Ayton does a good job switching on perimeter guards, and he has some nice lateral quickness to guard those players. Vucevic, 21-11, you could make the case for him, but he's just not good on defense at all, where Ayton is. Valanciunas, 17-12. He's a really good player, but I think that's close. But I would just pick Ayton because I'm thinking about now, but I'm also thinking about long-term as well. I mean, DeAndre Ayton, he's 22. He's just scratching the surface of what he's going to be. Definitely. There was a reason why he was the consensus number 1 pick. Like, at the time of the draft, in hindsight, we're looking at it like, oh, maybe they should have taken Luka or Trey. But he was a consensus number 1 pick at the time. He was called the next Shaq. And his regular season wasn't too impressive, 14 points, 10 rebounds. I thought he was going to take an all-star leap this past season. But in the playoffs, he's been averaging 16, 11, 0.5 blocks per game. He could get that up a little bit. But what he's been doing in these playoffs, holding his own against top centers like Nikola Jokic, Anthony Davis, dominating so far against the Clippers, having these insane highlights, I can't put him outside my top 5. I think he's that 5th player. And next season, depending on the leap he takes, I'd put him over Bam.
Okay.
It's tough because I look at both ends of the floor, and Rudy Gobert, he's just such, especially because we could talk about the regular season, but in the playoffs, when guys are a liability on offense, we've seen them like Ben Simmons, Rudy Gobert, they become liabilities to their team. And Ayton, we thought, defensively, maybe the small ball lineup was gonna mess it up for him, and he was gonna be a liability, but he's become so effective in this lineup for them, and they've been able to keep him on the floor. He even won a game for them with the big, dunk at the end. So I just, like you said, the Joker, duh. Embiid, duh. Bam, yeah. Cat, yeah, because his offensive game is so impressive. But
he's probably the best shooting big man in the league right now.
I think by far.
He is. He definitely is. It's just with Cat, it's hard because Cat, he plays for the Timberwolves. So it's hard to see we only seen him one time in the playoffs. So it's going to be a struggle for that. But like you said, I think next year if he takes that leap, I think Bam and Cat, he could possibly sneak over because we're probably not going to see. We might not see Cat in the playoffs next year. And judging, this is just one playoff series, but he's played against the best. So judging from what we've seen, Ayton is probably going to continue the success in the playoffs.
It's just that right now, obviously, his team's amazing and they're winning. So that's going to play a factor into people thinking that, he has a chance to be a top 5 big in the league or is a top 5 big in the league right now. I just think that there are other players, talent-wise, I'd take over him. Right now, obviously, he looks amazing. I'm not trying to take anything away from him. I just think that if Valanciunas was on this team, he'd be basically doing the exact same thing that he's doing, except defensively, I think he'd be a little bit more of a force. And then you look at Gobert, like you mentioned, I think I would rather Ayton right now. Ayton allows me to space the floor a lot better. The defense, obviously, I'm taking Gobert, but it's not like he's completely irrelevant defensively. I just think that I'm not 100% ready to just go all in and say he's top 5. It's just I'm not going to go recency bias and say, obviously, we're watching him. We're not watching Jokic. We're not watching Embiid. We're not watching these other guys. So that might be why this conversation has been going on, but it's definitely not too far-fetched.
I think the thing with recency bias, I feel like is more geared towards if me and Joel, if I'm an MVP this year, and Joel was behind me, but Joel had a great first round, then they talk about, this is why he's better. I think that's more of a recency bias. Ayton has been doing this round 1, round 2, and this is round 3. He's kept up the consistent play, and it's not just against scrubs either. It's against Anthony Davis. It's against the Joker. So this is against guys who are we believe are top 10 in the league, top 10, top 5. So these are it's not just, it can be people could say this is one run. I can understand that. We can wait and see on the process. But when you break down the run, it's against competitive guys, like superstar players, like Anthony Davis, the Joker. These are superstar players. So I think recency bias can kind of be set back when you look at the context and add the extra information.
And Jonas is a good center, but in Toronto, there was a reason he didn't get much playing time, and they traded him for Marc Gasol. And now it's because on defense, he just doesn't impact the game defensively that well. That's why they got Marc Gasol, and if it wasn't for that trade, I don't think we're sitting here and saying that the Raptors are the 2019 champions because Marc Gasol made a huge difference on their defensive identity. I don't think that's Valanciunas. I think Ayton has the edge, and as offensive players, I think they're the same.
I think the Clippers would have been able to run him off the court.